Ghost, Aliens, and Beyond.
Hi all and welcome to Ghost, Aliens and Beyond, another one of our millions of podcast and YouTube shows. So I'm very proud to say I got it right first time.
Yes, I did it before as well. It's great, wasn't it?
And you're guessing that with that voice there, if you listen on the podcast, Simon is back drinking his beer.
Yep, I'm in my school beer as well, which keeps disappearing, which is actually quite spooky.
Awesome.
Oh.
Absolutely awesome. It's past Halloween though, mate, but it's still the right show for that.
It's always Halloween with me. Always Halloween.
Simon, the last time you've been on, so much has happened.
I know. The world's gone to shit.
Again. Well, Britain's gone to shit anyway. Yeah, everyone, we're going back into lockdown.
Yeah. Lockdown, that's not...
Lockdown.
Lockdown. Well, it's lockdown 0.5, really.
Yeah, it's not a lockdown. The schools are open. You can still go to work if you can't work from home.
Yeah.
But everyone's still playing their bog roll like it's the end of the earth. I'm not sure
I know.
What people are going to do with all that bog roll, but it's made my day to think they've probably got bog roll now for the next 16 years, idiots.
Yeah. Well, hands up, I did go shopping today because we've not been shopping for a couple of weeks anyway. So with all the crap that's going on, I decided to buy myself an advent calendar.
I've got one.
Jack Daniels advent calendar. So that's what I'm doing this season.
Well, everyone, as you know, this is November, and because nothing's great about this year, we're just starting Christmas now. So you're all good though, aren't you, mate? Yeah,
I'm actually pretty good. Work's been a bit of a bugger for the last few weeks, but what can you do? It's that job I'm in. So
you take holidays, that's what you get.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we go on holiday to other countries which don't have much. They have a lot of history, but they don't many ghost stories. If I find any stories from where I came from, I'll bring them up in a future show for you.
I was going to go and book Tenerife. Something stopped me. First, it was going to be the £120 COVID test. And then BohnnyJoi come out and said, we're locking down for November. So no Tenerife for me this year. No. Nothing I can do about it. Just get on with it. But I was going to go back to the hotel where Boston White, a great podcaster herself, always said she's never seen a hotel room 666 last year. When I was there, I took a photo, hotel room 666. It was there. Yeah. But anyway, guys, you're all probably wondering what we're going to be talking about today. I'm hoping the title of the episode is giving you the idea. Boom, the moon's exploded. Quite simple. It's going to be scenarios of what could happen with the moon. Probably not in our lifetimes, but could happen with the moon. And would we be okay on Earth?
Yeah, there was a few YouTube videos you sent me.
I will put
kind of notes. They all fell into each other.
Oh, it's
fantastic. So what was the first one? Was if the moon?
What if the moon exploded?
Yeah, well, first thing I thought, without even watching the video when you said that to me, if the moon exploded, that would need one hell of a bang. And that video says it all, because I think it was 600 billion arc bombs or arc bombers to go off, which is like whatever, bigger than Hiroshima, to blow the moon up.
I think they said you would need around, 600 billion SAR bombers. Yeah, nukes.
That's it. That's the bomb.
600 billion of them. And that's the strongest nuke we've ever used on the planet so far.
Yeah.
So we're not doing it.
No, we're not doing it. The next thing that pops into my mind was, without watching the video first, if it did blow up, how big would the meteors be hitting the Earth? And I was thinking, great minds think alike. But I was thinking a lot of it will get burnt up in the atmosphere.
Yeah, well,
that video said the same.
That is exactly what would happen. A lot of it would. Obviously, the bigger chunks would get through, but they would also be a hell of a lot slower than a normal asteroid. So the biggest problem we probably have, though, mate, is large debris. Obviously, it's slower. It would probably heat up the Earth, so it wouldn't destroy the Earth, but it would heat up the Earth. What eventually, unfortunately, would kill everything on the planet anyway.
Yeah, if you're wondering what he means by that, it's the amount of meteor showers that would have constantly for years and years and years as the debris comes in. That gets hotter and hotter and hotter and hits the Earth. It might not make any effect where it makes a crater or anything like that, but these constant bombardments of heat and heat generation just melts the polar ice caps. And I'm just frozen on my screen. Yeah, melt the polar ice caps, cause a massive climate shift, and accelerate climate change to the point where the Earth would just be a dust ball because it would set itself on fire.
As you said, and a lot of this would be down to, even when it's all over, if people did survive underground and come up, the tilt of the Earth probably not going to be the same. It's not going to move as much. We're going to have shorter days, 24-hour days, on shorter days, as I said. Sea creatures as well would die out because the tides will not be there, basically, what we're used to, and a lot of them survive by using them. So that is a very big problem. So people don't realize how sea life and where we live all interacts together, and one without the other is going to be a problem.
Well, it's like the cockle pickers in Morecambe. They were like, the cockles come in on the tide, settle in the sand when the tide goes out, and then the cockle pickers go in, collect all the cockles, and come out as the tide's out. All that stops. So these cockles won't come into the show, and they won't survive because they've got to come on land to breed or something like that. I think.
What I find interesting is the human race can survive this. You would think with the moon exploding, that's it, we're gone. But we can't.
It wouldn't be instantaneous.
Yeah, but we can apparently go underground and we can survive this and come out the other end. But as you said, the tilt of the Earth would be wrong. So one side will basically be looking at the moon all the time and where the moon was, so to the sun, I should say. And that side will always be hot constantly, basically. So life would never be the same again.
I took it the other way with that. I was thinking the Earth would still rotate because it's not the moon that pulls the Earth.
It's a very slow rotation. That's the problem for it.
But what it is, the moon affects the moon affects the angle of the Earth, which will cause as we spin, we could technically turn. If we're in England now, we could technically go into the southern hemisphere just by the rotation instead of actually staying where we are in the northern hemisphere. That's what it means. It wouldn't. I don't think it would mean that one side would be like Australia gets sun all the time and we'd be in the dark. It'll be the Earth would still rotate because it's rotating around the sun, and the moon rotates around us. So we'll still be rotating, just that we won't be rotating on the 27.5 degree angle that we're on.
I think. So. But so the good news is, people, there is a chance of us surviving. We are a stupid race, so don't bet your life on it, literally. Well, let's move on to number 2 then. So let's not be so morbid, even though it will be morbid, I suppose. What if we had 2 moons?
Yeah, this just brought Star Wars references into my head straight away about Tatooine and looking at 2 suns. But your main effect would be you different tides.
Let's try something here. There's 2 types of moons I want to do. I want to do one 30th size of our moon now, but the same distance. So you're talking about, we would, because of both moons together, we would have bigger tides, bigger waves. I'm not killer waves. So surfers, you will love that. We're talking tens of millions of years later, they will collide.
Yeah. And then create a smaller moon.
Yeah, but the debris won't hit Earth. Yeah, again, we will survive.
Yeah, it would, to give us a reference of the only other planet in our solar system to have rings.
Yes, and also a lot of the debris would go around the bigger moon, and it would come apart.
Because if you watch the video, potentially that's actually already happened.
Yeah,
that's why you've got the rock. That's why you've got the rocky parts of the moon now, because we used to have 2 moons. One, they've hit each other. One's disintegrated and then fallen as dust. Because don't forget, the moon still has a bit of gravity. It's not the same gravity as it is on Earth. It still has a little bit, so it has a bit of a pull. If something hits it, it's going to stick to it. So yeah, potentially they said potentially there has been. We did have two moons. I think it was about 10 billion years ago. So
there wasn't many. But yeah, again, as I said, people, it would look great in the sky. I mean, the two moon thing just boggles my mind. I think it would be a fantastic thing to look up to, but obviously to us it'd be very scary. But it'd be interesting to see. So what if we went for two moons the same size, but the newer moon was half the lunar distance of the original moon?
Yeah, that's the one where it screws everything up, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, tides are what would be 8 times greater. People don't really get that. High tides, 300 meters in, tidal floodings, different phases for both moons as well.
Yeah, plus then moons will be pulling towards each other rather than just being towards us, and then they clash, potentially make a smaller moon with the big moon, and then we'll get the scenario that we had in the first one, where the moon technically explodes.
Yeah, and then eventually everything was left in space would make a new moon, and it would start again. And if we're wiped off the planet, new life may start on Earth, and they will never know and just think there was one moon. What there is for us right now, but they reckon there was 2 moons billions of years ago for us, so it's obviously been there. But people, we probably wouldn't survive that one, so that's one we never want. So let's get on to the last topic on the moons. What if the moon fell to Earth? Oh my God, why has there not been a movie of this yet?
Well, there kind of was with Bruce Almighty, but he pulled the moon towards him. if you understand that reference, well, you know it's classic Jim Carrey. Look,
it wouldn't actually hit the Earth as a moon.
No,
so don't panic. It'll break into pieces when it reaches the Roche limit. Is it Roche, something like that?
Yeah, the Roche limit.
Do you
I remember the name of it because there's a Roche engine in cars. That's why I remember that.
What exactly is the Roche limit?
It's a certain distance away from the Earth where the gravitational pull and the atmospheric pressure of the Earth will affect the moon and just break it into dust.
So we would.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If the moon was a solid all the way through, it would get through. But I don't know if scientists have said that they think the moon is slightly hollow.
Oh, because they know.
Yeah, but like I say, but it does make sense. Because if you think about the Earth has got the magnetic field in the middle, followed by lava and a crust. We know that the Earth is solid. Well, not solid, but it's got a mass all the way through. That's why we've got a gravity of 1. Whereas the moon, if that had a gravity of 1, technically it should be solid all the way through, but it hasn't. So that's why I think the theory comes from that it's not thinking. But I don't know. I need to go look more into the moon thing.
Obviously, there's some cool things would happen. The debris would happen. We'd have rings like Saturn again, but that wouldn't actually last for good.
Nope.
That wouldn't actually last long at all. But at first, it'd be great to see. Time it hit the tide. Again, we'd have a problem with the tides again.
Yeah, you'd have massive tsunamis.
Yeah, what would be like 7,600 meters high, the waves. So
you're looking at the day after tomorrow times 500 constantly.
In theory, they do think it would stop
on a happier note. Yeah, on a happier note, it will correct climate change and cool the temperatures of the Earth.
Because the Earth will speed up rotating. So not slowing down or anything, we are speeding up, which means we're going to have some serious winds.
That leads me on to something I thought of after the video was, would we survive the speed up of the Earth? Because we're used to this Earth rotating at, 22,000 miles an hour? We don't feel it moving. But imagine if it started going faster. Would we feel that moving?
I think it would be a gradual speed up. It wouldn't happen just like that. But I think...
Do you reckon we would feel it?
I think we would.
We'll be dizzy. I think it'll make us dizzy.
We would definitely notice the winds, and we would notice birds and that are definitely struggling with the change with the winds and that. It would confuse a lot of animals on the planet because a lot of animals live their lives through seasons. So potentially we could survive. Hopefully we're trying to keep this happy for you, or we will survive it if it ever happens. But people really don't worry, because in fact the moon's drifting away from the Earth at a rate of 4 centimeters a year.
Yeah. So probably in our lifetime, it's probably moved a meter.
Yes. So yeah, even in our lifetime, people, it's going to be here. Grandchildren, and on. It's going to be here.
Yeah, but if you're wondering a meters on big distance, in space, a meter is nothing. A meter is a micromillimeter in the vastness of space. If you think about it, a meter is to us, a meter might be a distance, a big distance for some people, but when it comes to space, a meter is nothing, really. Yeah, it's a micro. It's less than a millimeter. It's less than a micromillimeter. It's ridiculously small.
You've got nothing to worry about, people. No. It's still here. It still loves us.
Probably,
the only thing we've got to worry about is
25 generations time. Sorry?
What we got to worry about is what Doctor Who predicted. It's not actually a moon, it's a dragon's egg.
Yeah, or a space station. If you just start seeing green lasers coming out of it, the Sith have got up there before us, so they turn it into a space station.
The Sith? You mean the Americans? Sorry, America, I don't mean that.
You've had Americans on this show on this one as well.
American friends, they know we have a good laugh and we all have banter. They're the Sith Lords, and we've got Spaceball leader Boris Johnson.
Rick Moranis, yeah. It reminds me of Bill. Yeah.
You've been absolutely brilliant again. I hope everyone's enjoyed. Guys, could you do us a favour? On Twitter at GAaB podcast, or GAaB to make it easier, podcast. Give us a like on there, follow us. I don't always post all the time, but if you're listening anywhere, could you tell me where you're listening in, what country, if you're at work, just give us a little tweet, and so we know you're out there. Also, if you've got any ideas, like topics you'd like us to talk about in the future, yet again on Twitter, or even email us at ghostaliensbeyond@gmail.com. What's over Simon's shoulder, you can see it all the time. Pretty much, I love having guests who we don't know. On this episode, we've got a guest after this who tells me some fantastic stories from the USA. Brilliant John, by the way, mate. So yeah, he got in contact with me. He found us on Twitter and he got in contact with me. So if you, I'm going to keep on saying it. It doesn't have to be your own story. If you know other people's stories that have told you and you think you want to come on and tell them to us, come and tell us. You don't have to be on a video. John didn't show his face on the video. That was his choice. I didn't mind it. I wasn't even on the video. So if you don't want to do a video chat, we can just make it an audio chat as well, people. So just come on and join in and give us your stories. We love hearing supernatural stories as some weird demon goes across Simon's screen, people that you can't see.
Little Lego minifigure.
Yeah, again, guys, like the epic shows all on YouTube, Ghost Aliens Beyond, Ramp Football, anything else we do now, this one obviously. Like, subscribe, ring that little bell, obviously give us all the shows a review on any podcast app out there, show us some love. Also, by the way, we do have a new podcast because we're getting as bad as Nick and Craig from the After Dark Podcast Network. We just like making podcasts. It's Ramp.
I wasn't on the last one, I'm sorry.
He flaked off. But people,
I was getting scared out of my mind.
Yeah, people, it's different from the YouTube show. So Ramp Football YouTube show is about loads of us predicting Premier League soccer football scores out there, and I'm doing pretty okay this season. Some people are doing bad. Simon's getting a lot better now. He's warming up. That's a bit of a worry for me. And then you got the podcast, which is Rant Football UK. Now, that is totally different. It's not about scores and what happened in games specifically. It's a bunch of mates around the country of the UK, England, anything like that. We all get together like a pub scene on Zoom, and we bring topics up and we rant and we moan and we agree and disagree about things of the beautiful game football. So give it a go, guys. And yet again, if you'd like to come on that show, we'll tell you how to on that show. But Simon, thank you very much. Before I keep on waffling on, talking absolute rubbish.
I was waiting to see how long it took you to end it, but
it's too many shows.
I know. But yeah, thanks for having me again. Anytime you need me, I'm here. This brain does remember stuff,
and see you back for the Christmas episode where I've challenged you.
I'm trying to figure it out.
If Father Christmas can physically, if speed didn't matter to him, can get around to every house.
Yeah, I'm trying to crunch the numbers. It's getting a bit technical now, so it might
Okay,
take me a
well,
while to
people,
figure it out.
that won't be the only topic on the show, but that's just a little teaser. Right now, from Simon, goodbye, and in a minute, back to me and John for his amazing.
See you later, guys.
See you soon. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ghost Aliens Beyond. We have a guest from the USA. John, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Oh, it's fantastic to have you on here. You obviously won't know yourself, and people who've listened, almost every other guest I've had, I've known through podcasting or they're friends or personal friends of mine. You are the first guest who's actually reached out to me to come on, so thank you very much.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I'm just wondering, before we get into stories, Nat, what's the type of stuff you do to let people know what you're, if you're like a gamer, podcaster, YouTube, any of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so I run a podcast with two of my friends. I'm a streamer. I do YouTube, and just kind of clown around on the internet.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. You're like me, apart from I'm absolutely rubbish at games these days. So I've given that side of my life up. But myself, I've got loads of YouTube stuff, loads of podcasts. I think I burn myself out every once in a while. But this one I do truly love doing because I love hearing everyone's stories. And talking about stories, let's hear your stories.
Yeah, so this all starts back when I was a kid. I was probably like 8 or 10 years old whenever it first happened. We lived in a trailer that was converted into a house when I was growing up, and so it was like you had the main living area, then you had a long hallway, and then at the end of the hallway there was one bedroom, and then there were rooms that were coming off of there throughout the hallway. But for the most part, the experiences that I had were in that far bedroom, the one at the end of the hallway. Okay. And what happened essentially was, so at the end of the hallway, it was my sister's room. And if you sat on one of the couches out in the living room, you could look straight down the hallway and see into her room, essentially. And there was, pictures hanging throughout the hallway, and the glass would kind of reflect things from a big window that was in her room that shined light in. Well, every now and then when I would be sitting on my couch, I could, look back down the hallway, and I would see what looks like shadows, essentially, in her room. Like, it looks like somebody's arm flailing around almost. Okay, so the shadows kind of like moving almost in her room, and that was the majority of it for a few years. Nothing really happened from it. I never saw any like shadows like walk out of the room or any figures try and come out and down the hallway or anything, but they was just always in that room. I would see something, a limb move or a head or somebody just walk through. And when these would happen, I would be home alone. I know nobody else was there because I unlocked the door to come in. So it definitely kind of freaked me out, but I never went back to investigate or anything.
I don't think I'd look back. I don't think I'd go and investigate myself, in all fairness on that.
Yeah, especially being like 8 or 10, it kind of freaked me out. But that led to, I ended up having dreams where I would be pretty much reenacting that entire scenario where I'm sitting on the couch and seeing stuff move back there. And then I would, in the dream, throw a pillow down the hallway and it would go into her room. And then I would look away for a second, then turn back. And when I'm looking back at the room, the pillow is flying at my face. And then it would be like straight in my face. And that's when I would jar awake.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, so that was that's the majority of the first story. Like I said, it wasn't anything like real crazy. The second story is a little better. So one night I remember I was in my room, laying on my bed. I had a water bed, and I had probably like 7 or 8 pillows on the bed with me. And I had this irrational fear as a kid that something was going to come into the room from those experiences. Well, I would take the pillows and lay them on the outside of myself and like make it like a barrier just to give myself peace of mind.
Okay.
And yeah, I know it doesn't make any sense, especially looking back. It was so dumb, but irrational fears as a kid.
Yeah.
So I'm laying there and I'm watching TV, and while I'm watching TV, I see something peek into my bedroom, and I look over at my door, and I see this blank, pale white face.
Oh no.
It looked like a woman's features almost, but the eyes were blacked out, the nose holes were blacked out, and mouth was blacked out. Its mouth was open, almost like in the shape of an O.
Oh no, no thanks.
And it just stared at me for the longest time. We just stared at each other. It never came in. It never did anything. Never said anything. But I felt so numb and frozen that I couldn't even speak. I couldn't even like yell for my parents because they were asleep in their room just down the hallway. I could not do anything. I just stared at this thing, and it was so frightening. After probably about 4 or 5 minutes of it staring at me, it left, and I never saw it again.
Oh, that must have felt like an eternity as well. Even 5 minutes is too long, but I bet it felt like hours at some points.
Yeah, it definitely did. It felt like the thing was there all night, and I couldn't sleep.
Did you have like a feeling like it was like a nice presence, a nosy presence, an evil presence? Did like anything come across to you like that?
Well, it didn't feel like menacing or anything, but the fact that I couldn't move or anything, that kind of made me feel like scared almost, you know?
And I'm guessing you never saw it again.
No, never saw it again.
It just makes you wonder if it was just, it was an inquisitive, it was always looks at everyone. It was the first night someone's clocked it and it didn't know what to do itself.
Yeah. Looking back at it now, it makes me think, and I've talked to people in my life about it, that are more spiritual people than I am and have kind of delved into this sort of stuff. They think that it was more of something trying to like give me a little, not so much a warning, but like a wake up call almost.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Was there anything you were specifically doing at that time? Was you like looking into the dark arts, more into ghost? Was you
No, not really. Like, I mean, like I'd watch like scary movies that were like, like Poltergeist and like I don't know. Oh, not The Ring, but the one over in Japan, The Grudge.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That is truly, I mean, that's horrifying, especially at a young age as well. It's still vividly in your memory now, you can tell. Property-wise, did anything else, like little things happen? Did family ever say anything happened in the property?
No, nothing was ever mentioned to me. I don't remember anything else really. And I know I never ended up telling anybody about it either. I never told my parents or anything. Never told my sister. I just kind of kept it to myself. I don't know. I couldn't bring myself to talk about it.
Do they know now?
I can't remember if it's ever came up. I don't think so. I'll have to tell them.
Yeah. If ever anything comes up and they have stories as well, please come back on with them. And we'd love to hear more about it, because it could be more. You may think you was the only one experiencing something, and there could have been your sister, your parents, all could have been experiencing different things and all keeping quiet, thinking this is not really happening, or the parents may have thought something bad's happening, but we don't want to scare the kids. But it's this sort of stuff fascinates me, because there's so many people I've had talks with who think they're on their own. Then years later, they talk to their family, and the family member goes, "Oh, the person with no eyes and mouth," and you're like, "Oh," and all of a sudden you find out there's loads of you in the household who had the same experiences.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I definitely, I do need to talk to them about it. I never came up in conversation, but yeah, I'm definitely going to. Um, and maybe whenever I do come back on, because I know I can get other stories for you.
Always want new stories.
My father-in-law has a ton of stories. Actually, I can give you a brief one now if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. He he used to go out fox, squirrel hunting, all kinds of different animals. He would go for the furs. Well, he went. I think they were fox hunting one night. Him and his oldest son. Um, and while they were out there, they were in a little place right around here. I'm sure nobody would know what it's called, but it's it's this little quaint place. Like, I mean, it's off the road. Like, you have to take back roads upon back roads upon back roads to get to it.
Oh, so easily get lost then.
Yeah. Well, they had their trucks sitting on the road, and they were probably about 20 feet down the hill from it, maybe a little more than that, but 25 feet down the hill from it. And the way that the landscape was they were sitting on a hill, and then it went uphill from them, flattened out for the road, and then uphill again. And it was that time of night where it's pitch black between the trees.
Oh, yeah, I know. I've got woodlands around where I live, so yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So all they had was a fox call, which it sounds like a rabbit kind of screaming almost. It sounds really weird to hear it.
Yeah, foxes are so common where I am. We've literally got foxes. What I've got so used to people. There's this lady who lives near me, and she actually feeds them, and they don't attack squirrels or anything anymore because they've become domesticated, basically. But yeah, when they squeal, when they start making their noise, you look outside like, is there a dying cat or something? And you check, and then you realise it's the foxes.
Yeah, it's super eerie to hear for the first time. But so they're sitting out there and they've got their fox call going, and all they have, I think they had a 20 gauge pump, and then they each had revolvers on their sides, just in case like coyotes came in or something.
Yeah.
And they had the fox call going for a solid, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. And they started hearing some I don't know, like somebody walking up above them, like kind of near their truck, but a little off to their left. So they had their backs to the truck, so out in front of their truck, I don't know, probably 10, 15 feet. And they just sat still, just waiting to see, what happened. Maybe it's just somebody out taking a walk for some reason at that time of night. And while they're sitting there, they've got the call still going. His son has a spotlight, and he has it off and kind of sitting in his lap. Well, they heard this extremely, like, scruffled, I guess would be the word. Like, maybe not scruffled, but like hoarse, low voice. It just started screaming almost behind them, and I'll move my mic away so it doesn't ear rape everybody, but it sounded like, ah.
Okay, that's different.
And it was the kind of noise that would shake your organs almost. Like, you could feel the vibration in you. They sat still. They didn't know what to do. They both had chills. They were wondering. His son looked over at him. He whispered very, very softly. He said, "What do we do?" And he told him, "Just sit still. Don't move." They didn't hear it again. They heard it walk away. To this day, they don't know what it was, but they are almost dead set on the fact that it was Bigfoot.
Oh, you've just done a massive thing for me. I've never had a Bigfoot, and Simon, who's usually on here with me the earlier part of the show, and everyone will obviously heard him, will know I've said I've got to do a future episode on Bigfoot. Just for you bringing Bigfoot up is amazing. I mean, I think they're real. I mean, there may not be many left, but there's too many signs to say it's not real, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that they're out there. I think there's a lot of stuff out there that we don't know is there, and that transitions into so many different things. But yeah, I definitely agree that they are out there. Like just like the name of your podcast, like ghosts, aliens. I think that there's maybe not like the classic version of a ghost, but there's definitely spirits out there, and there's good and bad of both for sure.
I agree with that.
But yeah, I'll definitely get my father-in-law and even my wife. She even has a couple like eerie stories. I'll get them to kind of write some out so that I can come back on and read them for you guys.
Definitely. I mean, as I said, more stories the merrier. This is what I've always wanted guests to do. The guests who've only come on so far only have one story in this house. They haven't found anybody else. But if anybody who's listening, if you ever come on in the future, but you have or you don't have your own stories, but you know others, please get in contact with me. Come on the show, and we want to hear all these stories, and everyone who's listening wants to hear these stories as well.
For sure, yeah. I know when I first found your podcast, I was super stoked. I found another one that was like scary story based, and I listened to it. It wasn't bad. It definitely could improve, and I think the guest aspect makes it improve. They didn't really have any guests on ever, but when I found yours and I saw there were different guests on there to come on and share their stories, it's more personalized whenever you get the person on to read the story rather than them like writing the script and sending it to you. It gives it a different dynamic, and it definitely makes it better.
Totally agree with that. I'd say with this show as well, it's not just about ghosts and aliens. That's why I added the word beyond, because we can talk about all science stuff as well, science fiction, religion might come up one day. Actually, if you listen to this episode, obviously you won't know now, but I've been recording the first part tomorrow because I'm doing it all back to front. But we're actually talking about what would happen if the moon crashed into the earth, what would happen if the moon blew up, what if there was two moons. So this is a beyond episode. Some episodes are about ghosts, some about aliens, and then we go into more like science stuff, what might interest people as well.
That is awesome, and I definitely, for any of those kinds of conversations, I would love to be here because I love science fiction. I love nerding out about stuff like that.
Totally agree. Right. I want to thank you for these stories. I'm definitely having you back on at some point. Would you like to advertise now, like your podcast, your Twitters, even your Twitch and YouTube? Let everyone know where to like, subscribe, give you 5 stars on Apple Podcasts as well, and listen to you. So over to you for that.
Yeah, of course. And one other side note I wanted to add, I just remembered my one of my co-hosts on our podcast. When I mentioned to him that I was going to be doing this, he was like, "Dude, you have to get me on. I have stories." It's like I got to see this podcast. I got to listen to it. He's like, "I love that kind of stuff."
Just to let him know as well, we are on YouTube as well. Obviously, we're a podcast that's literally everywhere now. But if he has time, if he just wants to sit indoors and see how we do the YouTube show version of it, because I record with my friend on here, and as you can see, you can see the background going. Usually, I'm in front of it, but for this bit, I haven't done it for once. Tell them to look for Epic Shows on YouTube. You'll find this show on there, a soccer show. What probably won't interest everybody. We do have a soccer podcast, what's miles better than the YouTube show, in my opinion, because we rant about the sport we love, and with any sport, you've always got something to rant about. And obviously we've got the Epic Florida podcast as well, if anybody's interested in checking that one out. But yeah, tell them if you can check us out on YouTube if they want, or just check us out on the podcast. Most platforms we're on. We're definitely on Apple now, because I had a little moan at Anchor when they weren't putting me on there, but I've got that sorted. But yeah, so let's get your Twitter handles and that, and the name of your podcast as well.
Yeah, so I'm BohnnyJoi everywhere. It's JohnnyBoi with an I at the end. It's a spoonerism, but BohnnyJoi. I'm BohnnyJoi on Twitter mainly. That's kind of like my main platform for social media. I stream on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/BohnnyJoi, and I'm on YouTube. Just search up BohnnyJoi again, and you'll you'll find me there. And our podcast is called the Vibecast.
Clever.
It's me and two of my friends. We just kind of sit back and kick it with our guests every week. We've got, I think, 6 episodes now. We've had the best one, I think, had COD champ Justin Silly Fargo on. He's a great guest of ours. But yeah, just search Vibecast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, like pretty much everywhere. It's distributed through Anchor. So
that is absolutely brilliant. As you say, it's just pretty much about, well, anything, just like a bunch of mates getting together and having a good chat about all different topics, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so like the last episode we just did, we had a guest scheduled, but he couldn't make it last minute. So me and one of the other co-hosts, we sat around, we listened to music a little bit, gave some reviews. It was music from the guest that we had. So we just like kind of gave our honest opinion of it. And then we talked about like our hopes for the podcast and like our goals and potential guests coming up. The one before that was the COD champ episode. We just kind of interviewed him. We talked about Call of Duty some. We talked about what he likes to do in his personal life outside of Call of Duty. The episode before that, we had a streamer on. We branch all over the place. We had a photographer at one point. It's a very broad subject podcast.
Well, I've just subscribed to it myself on Spotify. So
hey, thanks.
It was easy to find everybody, so there's no excuse to get on there, especially on Apple people. Give it 5 stars and a nice comment as well.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I had fun.
Thank you very much. And to say, we'll keep in touch and I'll have you back on for a future episode. Thank you very much.
For sure, man. Thank you.
Okay, cheers. Bye, everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you for watching or listening to another great episode of Ghost, Aliens and Beyond. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at GAaB Podcast. If you have any supernatural stories you'd like to share yourself, email us on ghostaliensandbeyond@gmail.com. And remember, grab the popcorn, turn the lights off, and prepare to be scared.
This podcast is part of the After Dark Podcast Network.